What if you are late in being able to show love in a deeper way? My guest today, Paul Zolman, grew up with a background of anger in his family. And so after his divorce, he developed a game based on the five love languages in order to help him to express love more fully. Tune in to today's episode. Hello, dreamers. Welcome to the Late Starters Club, giving you the inspiration, mindset, and tools you need to start something midlife and beyond. Remember, it's never too late to follow your dreams. Late Starters, it's your host, Andrea Vall, and I am here with Paul Zolman, who has a really fascinating background, and I'm super excited. He is a late starter in lots of different ways, but his latest business, which is what we'll dive into a little bit, was what really connected us and got me interested about telling his story. So let me just introduce you, Paul. So, Paul is a love linguist and he knows all the love languages and how to give them away and has the ability to see them coming his way. And you can too. So, we'll talk about what that all means. But welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Andrea. Pleasure to be with you today.
Yeah, super fun, super fun. And I'm a big love language fan. I really definitely think that it's a super important thing that it has come out of in the recent years, but talk about what you do and like the way you do it with adding into the love languages and with your product that you invented.
So, just a few years ago in 2017, I started the development a little bit earlier, but in 2017, I received a copyright for this cube. On the cube, it has the different love languages. There, you can see a person holding a platter that represents service. Two hands together making a heart with a conversation fly out from that. Those are the words from the heart. There's a hand holding an hourglass that represents time. Hand holding a gift, that's the gifts. And then two hands touching one another, that would represent that touch. So there's
Mhm.
five love languages, six sides on the cube. This one surprised me. So there's just two instructions. You roll the cube every day. That's the love language you practice giving away all day that day. So, Andrea, part of the backstory is that I came from a background of anger and I
Mm.
didn't know how to love. So I had to figure this out. But this really helped me focus on learning all five love languages. Every day it's going to be a little bit different, but over a 30-day period, you'll see and be able to give away all five love languages. When you do that, that really gives you peripheral vision so you can see it when it's coming your way. It may not be your primary love language, but you can respond appropriately to that.
Mhm. Yeah, so it's almost like you're a late starter to showing love in a different way, in a new way, maybe.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, let's back up for people who may not be familiar. I know it's definitely something that a lot of people are familiar with, but it's originally a book that Gary Chapman,
That's right.
yes, Gary Chapman wrote called The Five Love Languages, right?
Correct.
And so where did you so you read the book and then you thought, what was the thought process for inventing this? What where did this come about? Because you weren't in this realm. You had a totally different background, right? So
I come from a financial background of doing accounting and finance,
uh,
and so it's definitely not my background. But what it came from was I was had an abusive childhood, an angry family, and what I
mm,
realized is that I was learning anger and being trained to be angry from the very start of my life. We get what our parents passed down to us, and I was passed down anger, and a
mm,
lot of that was became residual anger from my childhood into
mhm,
adulthood. And I wanted to turn that around. I kept blaming my father up to about age 35. I was blaming my father for all the awkwardness. It was like every time I became angry, obviously it repel people, my family and others. And if you get angry in public, who wants to be close to that person? You have that
Mhm.
repelling value there, if that's even called a value. And I did not want that. It happened with my family, and I'm sure it was contributory to the demise of my first marriage as well after 23 and a half years. But I didn't want that in my life anymore. And so I started reading books about that, read the color code and the five love languages. I went through the books, but because of my background, the books didn't really resonate with me. You mean, Dr. Chapman, that if I guess what Andrea's love language is, and if I cater to that, that Andrea and
Mhm.
I are going to be buddies? I'm a
Mhm.
bad guesser. It wasn't working for me. And that shotgun approach just absolutely was not working for me. So I went to Dr. Chapman's other application, which is that if I take this test, this survey, and if I can find out what my love language is, what am I supposed to do with that? What do I do? Advertise? Hello, Andrea. I, I'm gifts. What do you have for me today? How How's that supposed to work? And even if I did tell Andrea what my love language is, and then I said, "I told you what my love language is. How come you're not doing it?" You get to that pity party. I'm sure that was absolutely unintended by Dr. Chapman,
Mhm.
creating this pity party, because that's the communication. I thought there's got to be a better way. So I thought I liked games, and I think even in my dysfunctional family growing up, games brought us together. There was still a smack talk, there was still a put downs, there was still all the competition, but it brought us together. So I contacted Dr. Chapman and said, Dr. Chapman, are you licensing those little icons, the little pictures you have for each one of those love languages? This attorney wrote me back, said, no, we're not doing that at this time. So I have an attorney friend that was in the copyright sector, in the international or intellectual law sector of law, and took this idea to him. He said, theory, like the love language theory, is not copyrightable.
Mm.
Application is. So they weren't doing it as a game. So I felt it would be fine for me to make my own icons since I couldn't
Mhm.
license them, make my own icons, and then put it on the cube. And that's what I did.
Mhm.
Now, on the cube, you'll notice that there are no words at all. It's
Mhm.
intentional like that because it could be something that go international, but also for children. Children
Mhm.
start reading when they start reading with the pictures. They can tell the
Mhm.
story by the pictures, and this is something that can be applicable to children as well. So that's how I got to where I'm at right now.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I love that too because it's not like just if you have one main love language, it's like you not saying that, "Hey, I never want any gifts ever." I
Mhm.
like that you can choose to give something away or make some one of them a focus each day so that you really hit multiple things. But yeah, there's part of me that does think I should go around with a little button that says my love language is touch. Just give me a hug. I just want a hug. Okay.
You gave me some great marketing idea, Andrea. I've been looking for other products. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. So that's amazing. And I love that whole concept. I think it could be applied to so many different things and just make our relationships better, right? That's what is the spice of life is just really connecting and being able to connect to each other. But we were also talking a little bit before we started about the way you've late started into a few different things. This invention being or game being one of the things, but also you were talking about how you just got your degree at age 42, right?
Right.
So you hadn't had a college degree at all before that? Had you been to college before? Or what was the idea behind, like, really wanting to get back to college if you had done other things in your career?
Mostly it was for income purposes, just to elevate income. I You can only get so far without a college degree in any position, any job
Mhm.
position. Maybe that's true, and maybe it's not. Take a look at Bill Gates. It didn't
Yeah.
have, yeah, and others that have dropped out of college and
Mhm.
look where they're at right now. But I wasn't doing self-employment up until that time, and I was doing mostly employment with other people, and they required the college degree for that. And to get anywhere in that situation, I needed a college degree. By the time I got my college degree, I was already a CFO of a public company. So I needed the college degree for the resume for that public company because
Mhm.
normally you don't see a CFO without a college degree. And so I
Mhm.
needed to get it for that purpose. And so it was
Mhm.
I'm a late bloomer,
Yeah.
Andrea, and there's
Yeah.
a lot of things. I feel like I'm in my 40s and there's a lot of life left and a lot of things left to do.
Yeah.
And one thing about love, though, and about this is that I realized that I created this when I was single. And I don't know if I
Mm.
mentioned that. I don't think
Oh,
I'd
yeah,
mentioned that
yeah.
yet, but I created
Mhm.
it when I was single because after I was divorced and I needed to improve myself. I really, I'm a believer in a Christian, and yeah, I believe in the words that Jesus said at the Last Supper that one of the disciples was going to betray him. Each one of the disciples said, Lord, is it I? And as I've incorporated that sentence into my prayers and into the way I look at myself, that introspection, I've realized that there's a lot of things that I'm the cause or the problem with. And I really need to either move out of the way or
Mhm.
get in the way or and really pursue the solution of problems. And one of those
Mhm.
problems for me was the anger. I started
Mhm.
looking at people and realized that what was causing the anger, that I would be annoyed and be annoyed and be annoyed and be stacking these annoyances until I had that flash of anger come out. And
Mm.
I thought I was very patient in being annoyed because I do it like the sixth or seventh annoyance. I'm not the first one. So I thought I was being great. I'm really a good angry guy. And just you try to whitewash it, however it does, and it still doesn't work. You have
Uh-huh.
all these excuses, or you blame someone else. When you
Mhm.
blame someone, I found out, Andrea, you don't have to change. It's their fault, and it's
Mhm.
them that has to change. And if you have that blame or that victim mentality that it's their fault, and you're not going to change because it's their fault, you're not moving anywhere on the spectrum.
Right.
So what I realized my spectrum was that I've got anger on one side and I've got love on the other side. And I'm on the angry side. And what really pronounced that is when, after that, the demise of my first marriage, I started dating and it
Mm.
got serious. So I took this woman for Big Brother approval. Now I'm number 10 of 11 children. I have to have Big Brother approval.
Mhm.
It's just part of the deal. As I go in my brother's house, my sister-in-law pulls her aside and within earshot says, the only emotion that the Zolman family learned growing up was anger. First I denied it, said, then it made me mad. I thought, I'm totally busted. And so that was really the turning point for me that I really needed to figure this out. And I started saying things to myself like, I don't want to be angry, a double negative sentence because I came from an angry background. They're not very positive people. If you're angry,
Mhm.
you're not positive. You're just being angry. And that double negative didn't work, obviously. Double negatives work in math. You multiply two negative numbers together, it becomes positive. It
Mhm.
doesn't work in relationships.
Mhm.
So I realized that, and I figured I've got to find a replacement behavior, and that's where the cube came in. That replacement behavior, all of my paradigm shift was now what's right about that person, what can I love about that person instead of what's wrong with that person, and going down that critical path. So it's just a 180-degree shift from that annoyance, that first annoyance. First, I'm looking in somebody else's lane, thinking I have control over what
Mhm.
they're doing, and I realized I don't. I can't make
Mm.
their choices for them. I can't change the outcome. I can encourage, I can ask them if they'd like some advice, but I really can't change the outcome for them unless they ask for advice or they give permission for me to give advice. I
Right.
can't, I gotta stay in my lane. And I realized that, and that's something, a late bloomer type of thing that I've done, something that really has taken a long time to start doing that, start staying in my own lane. But as
Mhm.
I've done it, I realized that and rolled the cube, I can learn all these love languages, and I'm watching for people that light up. When they light up, that's the way I discover their love language.
Mhm.
No longer do I have to go through what I went through, have them pause the relationship. Could you take this survey so I can figure out how to love you? You don't
Mhm.
It's awkward. We
Mhm.
don't have to do awkward anymore. You use your observation skills, and then when they light up, that's what they like. That's their primary or a secondary love language. It's one of the top love languages when they light up. And
Mhm.
so that's what we're dealing with. We want to continue to send that out. It gives variety. Every day it's the genre of love that I'm sending out is different. You're sending it
Mhm.
out without any expectation of it coming back, but trusting the universe, the laws of the universe, the law of the harvest, karma, law of attraction, whatever you want to call it, that it's coming back someday.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that, and I think it's definitely hard to be angry at someone when you're thinking of ways to love them, like how to show them love. I think it's hard when you're really diving into what the positive qualities that they have and ways that you can show them love, it's hard to be angry, so
Absolutely.
that's great. Yeah. Yeah, and I love that I love that you were getting angry about being angry. I don't
It
know.
lit the fire. It definitely lit the fire.
So that is awesome. So then what was it like? What was the process like? So you have this you're reading the books, you have this idea for something a way to gamify this. What was it like to then take that idea to action? Did you have to find a manufacturer to the nice thing is it's pretty simple. It's the dice or whatever or the die? I can't remember. What's the it's the
Cube.
cube. Let's call it the cube.
People don't like I don't know, for a long time, Andrew, I've been calling it a die, and people don't like that word for some reason.
No, I know, it doesn't
I don't
sound
get it.
good. I'm gonna
Yeah,
yeah, here,
yeah,
have a
yeah.
die.
It's morbid. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll call it a cube. So what was it like to have you ever done anything like this before where you had a game or had an idea that you had to go find a manufacturer for that?
I have actually, and I started in 1994. I started a Christmas ornament business, and that Christmas ornament I made it out of wood, but I had to find someone to do the artwork, and it was looked like the three dimensional, but it was really a two dimensional made out of wood, and it
Uh-huh.
was more rustic. I had to figure out what the different collections to do, and I ended up with 450 designs. Sold that company and traded that company actually for a 70-acre farm in Colorado. And I sold the farm and
Yeah.
launching some other things. But I always wanted to own the farm. I grew up in Montana, and in Montana, everybody, if you say you're from Montana, everybody thinks you can ride horses. One time, I moved out of Montana when I was 17, and then moved in with my brother, and he was transferred to California. And I started dating in California my senior year of high school, and this girl had a horse. She heard I was from Montana, and so I've seen a lot of John Wayne movies and everything. So she invited me over. We're having a horse ride. We're having a date, and so I grabbed the saddle horn just like John Wayne, throw my leg up and over. I landed on the other side of the horse, Andrea, on my rear, and it hurt bad. She was laughing her head off. It was just funny how the perceptions we have, but anyway. That's just it's different. I so for the die, I did have an artist do the artwork for that.
Mhm.
And from that, it took almost a couple of years to get all the art just right, just exactly right, so that when you look at the icon on the cube, when you look
Mhm.
at it, you know what love language that is. I didn't want
Mhm.
there to be any question what the love language would
Mhm.
be. And then it took a little bit to figure out what am I going to do with the sixth side on the die. Once I had all the artwork done, then I was shopping around for dice manufacturers. I shopped all across the United States, and then I found a dice manufacturer in Poland. Actually,
Mm.
I know the Polish are very known for their intricate ceramics and their artisan work on that type of thing. And I thought
Mm.
I'm going to try this in Poland. The the dice manufacturing the dice in Poland versus the United States, it was one third of the cost,
Mm.
including tariffs and the shipping. Just
Wow.
still one third of the cost. And it's a really cool, it's 1 inch, about approximately 1 inch by 1 inch. Of course, they have the metrics on it, but it's 1 inch by 1 inch, and
Mhm.
the the designs are perfect. A lot of
Mhm.
this, they had to hand etch it. And so just even with that handiwork, it's still the cost is unbelievably a lot less than any
Yeah.
manufacturer.
Yeah, and so that's really interesting that the process from idea to actually having it in your hand took a number of years then.
It took a few years. Mostly the
Yeah.
artwork took the longest time. So while I'm waiting for the artwork to come, I built this huge one. This is like
Uh-huh.
2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. It's out
Uh-huh.
of a block of wood, and I'm trying to roll this, and because it had the sharp corners, it wasn't
Yeah.
rolling. It just
Right.
wasn't doing it. So I've never made a cube or a die in my life. Never made anything like that.
Yeah.
So I figured out I had to round off the corners and
Uh-huh.
make it so it wasn't so sharp, so it actually would roll because it
Yeah.
would be like a weighted dice. If I wanted physical touch, all I had to do was just set it just right, and it always rolled physical touch. And there was an attorney here in town that I showed this die to, and he said, "I want a die that has all six sides physical touch," because that's what he wanted to give away. That's what
Ah.
he wanted to receive that. And I really defy that teaching that Dr. Chapman has, that if you give away what you like, then it'll come back to you. I don't believe in that reciprocity, because that to me is a transaction, and
Right.
transactions are business. That's not love.
Mm.
It's different. It's totally different. If you're looking for reciprocity, you're really looking for the wrong thing. True love is sending it out without any expectation it's coming back, but trusting the laws of the universe that it's going to come back at some point in time.
Mhm.
Don't be doing the transactions, because it's not let's make a deal. That's not going to work for you.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
going to be chosen.
Yeah, yeah, that's really interesting. And part of your mission here is getting people to learn all 5 love languages. What do you think are the benefits of that? What
It really improves your consistency in sending love out, number one. The second thing is that it improves your vision, so you can see it when it comes back at you. It's going to improve those communication skills in any sector, whether it's in work or at home or at play, any place you go. I was, as I mentioned, I was single when I created this. I didn't have a significant other to practice love languages on, or to
Mm,
cater to them at the
mhm,
particular time. So what the heck am I supposed to do? And then I realized, oh, I've got to love everyone. But it was perfect for me because it developed a character. I needed that character evolvement from that anger that I had. I needed
mhm,
that late start in sending out love,
mhm,
all from from where I came from. It
mhm,
had to happen that way, and thankfully, it happened that way. This actually gets you into a mode of watching for the best part of people, and people are intrinsically good. They really are. 80 to 90% of people, of each person, have good things about them. Everybody has faults. Everybody has weaknesses. Everybody has makes mistakes. Why are we focusing on that when why don't we focus on the 80% that they do right? And that's
yeah.
what this is all about.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that, and now you are in a relationship.
I
Was
am.
it the so was it the cube that the cube did it for it helped you, huh?
You know what? I think that it really helped a lot, because I was a different person.
Mm,
Instead of focusing on faults of another person, or whoever I was dating, instead of watching for red flags, you're going to see them. Everybody has red flags. Why were you watch for red flags? Watch for the green flags, and then just acknowledge. You can say, "I see that, but I don't have to deal with that," or that's something I'm accepting of that red flag. I've got red flags, but I was watching for those green flags, and then that is what helped me develop the relationship, and it really is kept strong. My wife doesn't roll the die. I have to make that disclosure, but what she does is she tries to guess what I'm doing that day. She tries to guess
mm,
what I've rolled for the day, and by
mm.
doing that, she's participating, but just more on her own level.
That makes it a fun game too.
That is
Yes.
fun.
Yeah. That's right, that's right. It's awesome. Awesome. So, do you have any advice for developing this now, so you were you doing this on the side? Because 'Cause you've had a lot of different things going on. Were you developing this on the side, I'm guessing, while you were doing other things as well?
Yes, for the last 13 years or so, I've been doing merchant services. I set up
Uh-huh.
businesses so they can take credit cards as payment. That still
Yeah,
really funds my avocations, my
yeah.
habits. It
Yeah.
really helps keeps that
Yeah.
flow
But
going.
I love that this is something that you're passionate about. You decided to start. You started, went through the process of developing it, getting the artwork, getting it researching manufacturers. And so what advice would you have for anyone who is looking to do something like that? Maybe it's a game, maybe it's starting a product, maybe it's a special Christmas ornament idea that they have. What advice would you give for anyone who is looking to start something like this, like a physical product?
That's a great question, Andrea, and I'm gonna answer it this way. I used to be annoyed, but I realized that those annoyances actually could be launch pads for ways to solve problems, a way to launch a business that would solve that problem of maybe that person's problem, or maybe several people's problem, or maybe your own problem, like this was for me. This really solved the problem anger for me, that I wasn't starting to stack those annoyances anymore. In fact, I rarely get annoyed anymore because what I'm watching for is opportunities to love. Now, instead of stacking annoyances, I stack kindness on kindness. And this becomes a launch pad for being able to get to the higher laws of love, the law
Mm,
of compassion, the laws of
mhm,
charity, the law of forgiveness, intimacy, empathy, or sympathy, anything like that. It gets to these are stair steps now to the higher law. So I
mhm,
think that what you're watching for, and what your listeners should watch for opportunities, is where there's a, a clog in the system, something that is annoying to someone, annoying to yourself, that you can solve a problem with.
mhm.
This became that for me, and that I would suggest use those annoyances in that way.
Yeah,
Launch a business, try to solve the problem, or watch for inspiration of how can I solve that problem, or how can I help that person. And when you're trying to help people, then it's a whole lot easier, I think, to get passionate about how, especially when you find something that really does help, like this did for me. It's
yeah.
easy to be passionate about it as well.
Yeah, I love that because you're not like, "Hey, how can I go out and make a bunch of money on this thing?"
No.
It's, "How can I be of service to something that I see that is wrong that I need, or that I see that actually it could be like if you're launching something that could be a service to a group of people, it's coming from that place of service will help you probably break down the barriers that come up when you have to go to a lot of different manufacturers or find the artwork or get the something whatever designed quite right. So I love that if you've got a different motive that can help you be resilient in the face of obstacles.
Absolutely, you need
Yeah.
that. It can't be just about the money. Money is the result. Money comes to great ideas. It can't be about the money. It has to have that underlying purpose, as you said, Andrea, that is gonna sustain you through the rough times too.
Yeah. Yeah. This has been awesome, Paul. Thank you so much for sharing your ideas and how you got your late start in developing the love languages and showing love and in different ways. I love that. I One thing I always like to ask all of my guests is a favorite motivational quote or inspirational saying that carries you through. Just am such a quote junkie that I love to hear what inspires you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I do have a very favorite quote, Andrea, and it comes from the classic movie Sound of Music. Rolf is on the ground, and the Von Trapp daughter is up on the second story. He starts singing a song. And some of the lyrics of this song are: love in the heart wasn't put there to stay. Love isn't love till it's given away.
Wow, I love that. That's awesome. And this is another reason I love it because everyone has something so unique and I hadn't even ever heard that before and that's beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank
And
you.
where can people find you online? We'll have all the links to your the Role of Love book, the journal, all kinds of things that you have available, but tell us where people can connect with you online.
That's a great question, Andrea. The best way to connect with me online is through my website, roleoflove.com, ROLE of love.com. And I've got a bundle special right now that you can get the the cube, the book, and the journal for just $29.99. And it's great gift, great wedding gift for a family starting
Mm.
out. It's perfect wedding gift for Christmas. It's a great gift for someone that you feel like might enjoy something like this. They won't have to wear that badge that says "My love language is" around. Unless you want to do gifts. My love language is gifts. That would be a great one to do.
That's
Or
awesome.
you wouldn't want to do physical touch because they might punch you or something. They're like, "Oh, yeah, I'm gonna touch that guy." But this bundle package is a whole lot less than just one therapy session with your therapist.
Yeah, I love that. So, yes, we'll have the links in the show notes, but thank you so much, Paul, for coming on and sharing your journey with us.
My pleasure, Andrea.
Bye, everyone. Hope that was helpful, and make sure you grab the free guide, Top Tools for Late Starters, on the website at latestartersclub.com. And let's turn dreaming into doing.